Twinkies, Oreos, even bears did butter.
Oh.
Ugh.
Forbidden fruit.
Eyes just dilated. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary.
We're the podcast that recaps all episodes of The Big Bang Theory, no spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
make yourself a grasshopper, and enjoy the ride.
Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing amazing because the cat's alive.
The cat is alive.
It's alive.
Brilliant. I know.
For any new listeners out there, we are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. As a reminder to everyone, this is Ryan's first time watching the Big Bang Theory, and I've seen the series several times. And Ryan has been compared to Sheldon multiple times from different people, so we keep tallies on how similar Ryan is to Sheldon. Any update for us?
From last time, we're on 18 not like Sheldon, 21 like Sheldon.
As we near the end of the season, well, I guess this is our final episode of season 1, so we'll see where you're at the end of the episode.
And it's not looking good.
Spoiler
alert.
And since it is the last episode of the season, I thought I would have a personal celebration, so here's my grasshopper.
Nice. I'm drinking some coffee, but I might mix one at a bathroom break.
Well, cheers. We made it a full season. You know, the kid's with his mom tonight. Well, not like at least the next couple hours, and then I tag in. But from now until then,
you hop on time. In, and grasshopper.
Yeah, this is good. A little bit of housekeeping. Don't forget we have an Instagram. Follow us at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. We have a TikTok, which I haven't even touched yet. Maybe next year. Maybe that'll be my my New Year's resolution.
Rob resolution.
We also have an email. Feel free to email us, send us a comment, say hi, tell us what you like about us, what you don't like about us, or just whatever. Our email is theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And if you give us a 5-star review, which we have a new one, we'll give you a shout out. So we are going to give a shout out to CD Runner. So thank you. We actually missed this last time because we recorded the day after that he or she posted this, because it says November 26th.
I kind of wonder if maybe it took a day to post or something, or go through the system, because we didn't see it.
That must be it. Yeah, so sorry for the late shout-outs. But they said it was 5 stars, and they said, love this podcast. This is very refreshing to listen to. I loved watching Big Bang, and now I have started watching, then listening to hear Rob and Ryan's perspective. So thank you again. Another 5 stars. We're kind of killing it. 4.9 out of 5 right now.
I'm very proud, and I'm glad somebody cares about our perspectives.
I know.
Right?
Somebody's actually listening to us.
Right? And it's not my mom. I don't think.
It's my mom. All right. Well, thank you again. Still no emails, but hey, I'll take a 5-star.
Yeah. And you know what? I was going to say that I used the last page that was not lined and ended up finishing. I made it.
You just made it. Oh.
Season 1. We'll get a picture of this for Instagram.
Yeah, I shot you a text about that. Yeah, I'll post his filled up notebook with his notes and his tallies.
I don't think I've ever completed a notebook before, so I'm proud. It's
Me
and
neither, actually. I feel like I always end up like losing them or throwing them away halfway or something like that, and just getting like a new one.
right. It's like my ADD. I'm like, I just need a prettier one, a better one.
Something younger and prettier.
Yes, younger. I'm in my
Well,
40s. I want a journal in its 20s.
well, the grasshopper is kicking in, so we're going to have
Nice.
quite the show today.
I see your pupils dilate. Wow.
Or maybe I'm just aroused.
Oh, why not both?
Well, as we said earlier, we are on the final episode of season one. And next episode, we're going to have a recap of season one, and we're going to do some superlatives. So Ryan and I are going to talk about our favorite IQ points, favorite episodes, least favorite, favorite guest star, all that kind of stuff. So tune in next time, and we'll talk about season one recap in addition to the lost pilot.
We're going to have to do some searching, but we're going to find it. We'll make it work.
Ryan, I've been keeping a log of all the IQ points and everything and writing them down. So I'll send them your way just so you don't have to hunt for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't find them.
Yeah. I got it all typed up. All I got to do is copy and paste it. I'll start posting them on Instagram too, just so everybody can actually look back and see what kind of stuff that we talked about.
Do you remember? Bow, bow, bow.
And that's all I have for housekeeping. Did I miss anything?
That's all I have that I can think of.
Well, before we get started, I actually have a follow up from last week's episode. After
Ooh.
our cake discussion, we talked about white versus yellow cake.
Yes.
I did a little bit of research because it got me wondering. I was like, what was the difference between yellow cake and white cake? So if this is your first time listening, last episode with the peanut reaction, we talked about Leonard's birthday, and then it dived into a conversation about cakes. We talked about yellow cake and white cake and what its differences were. We didn't look it up right then and there, so we didn't know the answer. But I looked it up, and here it is. So yellow cake is yellow because of the use of egg yolks and butter, whereas white cake usually relies on egg whites only, or the use of shortening as the fat. Since yellow cake uses butter and whole eggs or just egg yolks, it's a little bit more dense, tender, and flavorful. For white cakes, the use of only egg whites creates a better structure for the body of the cake, so they're stronger but fluffier with more of a subtle flavor. So that's the key difference.
That makes sense. I think one time I got a cake with some friends and they ended up getting a yellow cake, and I, for some reason, thought it was like horrendous that they would get a yellow cake. And I remember saying something like, why would you get yellow cake? Yellow cake is for parents who never wanted children. And they're like, why would you say that, Ryan? And I'm like, I don't know. I just really didn't want to eat yellow cake. It wasn't even my cake. I was just really against the idea of yellow cake that day.
Wow. Pickle much?
But now that you say it's butter, like, it kind of sounds better.
Yeah, it's supposed to have more flavor. Like, I definitely don't eat enough cake. Or whenever I get a cake, it's usually some sort of intense flavor. I don't really get just strictly yellow or white or like some sort of sheet cake. That's why I haven't thought about yellow cake in such a long time. I usually get like a lemon cake or a chocolate chip cake or something like that, where it's like many. It's the Ben and Jerry's of cake. That's what I get.
Super sugar overload.
Yes, as all cakes should be.
Amen.
Well, that's the little recap on cakes from last week. All right, so what did you think of overall thoughts on this episode? We are talking the Tangerine Factor.
I enjoyed this episode. I don't think I liked it as much as the previous two. I think the previous two had me laughing more, but this one had some necessary character development and progression, especially going for the end of the season. Something that we need to see where is this going from here. And it did have some funny parts. I'm going to mention it. they're playing a board game, and I recognized the board game in this one. Apparently, they played it in the last one, and I didn't recognize it that time. So I'm kind of happy that I was able to catch it this time and talk about it a little
Nice.
bit.
Yeah, you're a big board game fan. It's a game that you played before then too?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I see your pupils are dilated now. Well, I really enjoyed this episode too. It's like you said, this episode really advanced the characters. The entire I feel like season one was building up to this moment of Leonard building more and more feelings towards Penny, and then he finally asks her out.
Yeah, and I don't want to ruin too much, but I think the ending is great for his characterization too, where he not only asks her out, which is the point of the episode, but he takes the leap of faith and kisses her, and it's like at that point, he is overcoming his anxieties, like not just asking her out, but saying, "I've got to go all in on this, or I'm going to miss out." And I appreciate that after 17 episodes that he's developed. He's learned to live on, I don't know, the hills of life. Well, what's
Living on a prayer.
Living on a prayer. Living on the back of a grasshopper.
Yeah. Fly, grasshopper, fly. Well, I also loved, I felt like there was a lot of great dialogue in this episode, a lot of great back and forth between the characters. I love seeing the Penny and Sheldon interactions. And I really like fish out of water stories where it's like someone just is not in their element, and Penny is always that with Sheldon. So every time they have a conversation, she's just like this fish out of water, like for the lack of a better term, because that's all I can think of.
To be fair, he's kind of the fish out of water too, when he's literally in her apartment looking for a place to sit. So
yes, exactly.
It's definitely going both ways a little bit.
It goes both ways.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, so shall we dive in?
Yeah.
So we are talking season 1, episode 17, The Tangerine Factor, aired May 19th, 2008, written by Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and teleplay by Lee Aronson, directed by Mark Cendrowski. Quick little summary of the episode. Leonard finally asks Penny out on a date, a real date this time. Both of them have an existential crisis of the thought of them dating because they don't want to lose their friendship. Sheldon to the rescue.
He tries his best.
I thought he did well. I think it worked. All right, opening scene. Howard is teaching Sheldon Mandarin. And quick little comment on Sheldon's shirt. He wears this one a lot, and I think it's my favorite of his shirts. It's the green. It's green with a bunch of bats. So it's a Riddler shirt.
Oh.
Yeah, he wears it pretty often throughout the entire series, and every time I saw that, I really liked it. I remember back in college, or not just out of college, when this show came on, I was looking for that shirt. For some reason, I just couldn't find it, but I'm sure it's everywhere now.
Of course it is. I feel like I would have tried to make it, and it would have been a horrendous ripoff, and that would have been embarrassing.
And you would have gotten sued.
Yeah, I would have by the Riddler of all people.
I know.
Those are my trademarks. Riddle me this. How much money you have?
Well, they start bickering over hand gestures, and Sheldon says that it's Howard's obligation as the teacher to teach him correctly. Sheldon is learning Mandarin because the Chinese restaurant that they go to, the Szechuan Palace, might be posing orange chicken as tangerine chicken, and he wants to confront them. So I don't quite know why he wants to learn Mandarin for this, because we've been to that restaurant and they speak English.
They do, yeah. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, but
I will say props for wanting to learn a new language. So I will commend him for that, especially Mandarin. It's one of the hardest languages in the world.
Yeah. I start off with a point going to Sheldon here right away.
Because you would learn another language to be spiteful?
Oh no, absolutely not. I'm terrible with languages, but I'm very literal, and I could see myself doing the hand gestures, thinking, "Yeah, this is part of it." Or facial
Oh,
gestures, not knowing like this isn't like why are you mimicking my hand gestures? Oh, I just thought that was part of it.
I feel like I would do that too, though. I feel like it's a very
What
natural thing. Like as you're learning, you imitate them.
mimic? Yeah, I was talking to somebody about mimicking as children. Part of the reason we learn languages so easily, not because our brains are sponges like we like to believe, but because we're allowed to get away with anything as kids, and we're always encouraged positive reinforcement out the wazoo. And so as we're learning to talk, we say stupid things and we repeat things over and over again, and it helps us memorize. But if we did that as an adult, we'd be committed, because you can't just mimic somebody and then repeat what they said 500 times. They're going to be like, "You're creepy." They're not going to be like, "Good job, Rob. You're getting it." Unless you're
Well,
paying them.
well, didn't we actually talk about that in a previous episode with Howard with the pickup artist stuff, mirroring
Yes.
someone?
Yeah.
So proved you wrong.
Uh-oh.
What episode was that? Oh, it was the Halloween episode, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because we see Mike in that one, right?
No, Mike didn't enter until the Nerdvana annihilation.
Who was the boyfriend who got into the fight with Leonard?
Kurt.
That was Kurt.
Yeah.
I was thinking that's Mike, man.
Yeah, Mike what was introduced in Nerdvana Annihilation
Mm.
after Leonard was trying to like sell all this stuff to
Yeah,
prove how much of an adult he was to Penny, and then Mike showed up, and then he was like, "Okay, I guess I'm keeping all my stuff."
I remember that.
All right, well, we're gonna dive into our first IQ points.
Okay.
I did a little bit of research on the difference between oranges and tangerines and
Mm.
the recipe itself because Sheldon was so hard pressed on it's orange chicken. I wanted tangerine chicken. So, everyone, this is the difference. So, mandarins are a category of fruits that consist of tangerines, clementines, also known as cuties, and satsumas, which are the best set of all these. So, a tangerine is a mandarin, but not all mandarins are tangerines. But when people say tangerine chicken, I just did air quotes, they're usually referring to mandarin chicken. So there is a Chinese dish called Mandarin chicken, and they kind of get used interchangeably. So in case anybody still doesn't know what any of these are, mandarins are just very small looking oranges. So the key difference between the two dishes is that orange chicken is usually breaded and fried, and tangerine chicken, also known as Mandarin chicken, is usually not breaded and fried. They're usually roasted, diced, and then tossed in a sweet soy sauce. And orange chicken is breaded, fried, and then tossed in a sweet orange sauce. Mandarin chicken is usually spicier than orange chicken as well, and tangerine chicken is supposed to use tangerine juice and peel. So that's why he's asking, "Let me see your peels" at the end, because he knows that they use like the legitimate juice in
When
it.
you think that he would know the breading, do you think like he thinks that they're just not using the breading and using
The
regular?
same sauce, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's like. They make one sauce and they do it on both.
Oh, I gotcha.
And Mandarin chicken originated in China and was brought over to the US. And orange chicken was created in the US by Chinese immigrants using leftover orange peels in their sweet soy sauce. It was originally non-breaded, but to adapt to the American palate, it was breaded and fried and made sweeter. So that's what the differences are, and that's what Sheldon is looking for.
Man,
He
I
doesn't
just
want
got
that sweet
hungry.
sauce. He just wants a little bit of spice to it. Just add a little bit of chili flakes to it.
I,
Done.
I want both. I want my chicken breaded and I want to eat it too.
I gotta say, I would prefer the orange chicken. I do like it breaded and fried.
Yeah. Anything fried, I love it.
Exactly.
Oh.
Remember that craze, like in the early 2000s, where everybody was deep frying everything?
Yeah, I mean, you can still go to like fairs and get a bunch of deep fried stuff, but I remember like it really picking up.
Twinkies, Oreos, even bears and butter. Ugh. Ugh.
Forbidden fruit.
Eyes just dilated. All right. Well, Penny storms in and yells out to her ex boyfriend, and she throws his iPod out the window because he was blogging about their sex life. And we talked about who Mike was. She broke up with Mike. He's a dickbag, talking about their sex life, publishing it publicly.
On a
So then,
blog, which may or may
yep,
not be hard to find. Howard can't seem to find it, right?
yep, he ditches the Mandarin training to find that blog. And then, so then next scene, Leonard goes to Penny to comfort her, but he's instantly rejected. So then Leonard tells the guys that she doesn't want to talk, but then Sheldon misinterprets that, thinking that she can't talk, and goes into explaining how her emotional response is due to her amygdala, and that speech is centered in the neocortex, and her amygdala is overpowering her, blah, blah, blah. That leads into the next IQ point.
I did a little research on this.
Lay it on me.
I have a little bit of discussion about the. I'm gonna butcher this word.
Amygdala?
Amygdala.
I think every time I think of this, I think of Waterboy. The
Oh,
medulla oblongata. Wait, is it amygdala? Wait, it's not the same thing. Medulla oblongata. Wait,
see,
is it different? Shit,
I,
I thought it was the same thing until I just said it out loud. I was reading all this and saying it into
I
my head, and now I'm like,
ruined
now that I
it.
say it out loud, I'm like, oh,
I keep thinking of Princess Amidala from Star Wars.
it's Queen Amidala.
Queen Amidala. There we go. Oh man.
See, that nerd shit I do know.
Ah, I got the board game. That's all I got. With our powers combined, we are a nerd. Just one. So I got the amygdala is an almond-shaped part of the brain, kind of at the lower part, and its stimulation causes intense emotion. Or yeah, so if we start getting really scared or aggressive, angry, that usually means that the amygdala was stimulated in some way, shape, or form somehow. And there are so many studies about the connections between this and other parts of the brain, but the other part that he was talking about is the neocortex, and this part is, according to newsmedia.net, it's the four lobes. It's the largest part of the cerebral cortex. This is like kind of the top back of the brain from what I was seeing. It's when I think of the brain, what I think of. And this is responsible for thought and perception and attention, basically focusing and actually putting ideas into some logical order. And, it also said episodic memory. And the notion is that apparently there's some correlation from what I've read from a mix of things that intense emotion can cause memories to stick in our brain or vice versa, or something like that, so that when you have a bad memory, it can still regurgitate powerful emotions in you, and you're like, I'm still angry about that. So there's some theories on these might be more connected than we thought, or evolution has developed they were part of the same connection. I don't know, but they are somewhat related, and what he's saying is that her primitive brain is basically overpowering everything else, and all she's thinking is go away, right? And what I looked for was, he says, this is what we call rendered speechless. And I could not find anything to suggest that rendered speechless is any sort of scientific or medical condition. Maybe I was just picking up on him making it sound like it was something specific. But when he said rendered speechless, that's just a saying that there's no actual name for, or that's not a name for anything, I guess. And that when I searched it, the only thing that really came up was Big Bang Theory. So that was my IQ.
Oh, so like if it led to Big Bang Theory, it could have been like, well, not to say it's not real, but
That's true. It might be somewhere else. I just could not find anything besides Big Bang that connected Rendered Speechless with
well,
Amygdala and
well,
neocortex.
I might be reaching on this one because like I was looking for the rendered speechless part too,
Yeah.
but I came across something called amygdala hijacking.
Ooh.
So it's I feel like it leads to rendered speechless. So I feel like that could be part of what's happening in amygdala hijacking. So in a nutshell, this is when your emotions get the best of you. Like when you lose it, like when you're so angry, you kind of like you could be so angry that you could be speechless. Like you just can't get the words out because like you're just so like you're boiling so much. So I'm wondering
You're
if that's what
fuming.
kind of goes hand in hand. So basically, when something happens to you, whether it's seeing, hearing, or touching something, sensory information is sent to the thalamus, which is your brain's relay station. From there, that information is relayed to the neocortex, the thinking part of your brain, or the part that allows speech. From there, it's sent to the amygdala, the emotional part, which then produces the appropriate emotional response. However, when faced with a threatening situation, the thalamus sends information to both the neocortex and the amygdala at the same time. And if the amygdala senses danger, it makes a split second decision to initiate fight or flight before the neocortex has time to overrule it. This event causes you to release hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol. These hormones prepare you to flee or fight by increasing your heart rate, elevating your blood pressure, and boosting your energy levels. So when all that's happening, you could be speechless.
So do you think this is what's happening with Raj? That he is overcome with emotion of some sort and cannot talk to women? That he's too embarrassed or scared that the fight or flight, and he either wants to fight these women or fly from them? I don't know.
And I guess he's flying away because
Flying
kind of
away,
just walks
right?
away.
Just walks away.
Maybe that's it.
Oh, interesting. Man, yeah. So we use that phrase. I was just thinking that it's not an official phrase. It's just something we've come to know that people can be rendered speechless when they have nothing. They're not able to talk. They're just took the words out of their mouth, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that?
I think that's all I've got for that one.
Cool, cool. Me too. All right. So enter Raj with the broken iPod.
I love
And he
that.
and what's he gonna do with it? He's gonna sell it on eBay as slightly used. And Leonard is determined to comfort Penny, and Howard gets gross by saying he should have her let her guard down and cop a feel. Great, Howard. Great.
Yeah, I have to ask. Nobody else is jumping on the blog thing, but I would like to say I would be strong and not read it. But even Leonard gets to the point where he's like, maybe I should read it, right? And
Well,
I
later on when she presents it to him, but I
present.
don't think I would ever search for it. Like if it was my friend, it's kind of like that's weird. Like
You would
I don't need to. Like, granted,
think
he has a crush on her, an extreme crush.
that's true. I feel like that might make it more awkward for me that it's an extreme crush that I'm like I don't really want to think about that or
Yeah, it would be more heartbreaking.
but I'm reminded of Friends when they find out that Joey was in a pornographic film and they all rush to get it. They're like, I want to see Joey in a porn.
I could not watch any of my friends in porn. I couldn't. Like, no. Maybe you, but
I was going to say, well, now I don't know what I'm going to get you for Christmas.
all right. Well, Sheldon says that he's not obligated to comfort her, but Leonard says that she's a damsel in distress and he wants to play the hero. Howard still urges Leonard to make a move. Leonard claims that they're just friends, but then Howard keeps pressing on, asking if Penny threw herself at Leonard, he really wouldn't do anything. But then Leonard comes to his senses and realizes, well, I'm not her gay friend.
Yeah. I'm just a human being, right?
Yeah, there's a limit. All right, next scene. Leonard is now at Penny's and they are discussing her choices in men. Penny is stuffing her face with ice cream. And I looked at the container, it's Ben and Jerry's, and it's definitely like a gallon size. Did Ben and Jerry's ever make gallon size ice cream?
Not that I know of. I'm
Like
thinking.
it unless they kind of just made it look like Ben and Jerry's, but it had its signature cow on it, and I swear if you look at the label, you see the word Ben or the name Ben.
I know they make bigger ones of vanilla and cherry Garcia, but I don't think it's a full gallon.
Yeah, I hopped on the website to see what they do, and on their website it only shows pints, either pints or mini cups.
And I remember hearing somewhere that part of the reason for that is there was this belief, or they believe that going with any size more than a pint messes up with the ratio and consistency of the ice cream. And to keep the quality and the texture, they have to maintain a pint size. I'm not sure if that's completely true, but I remember hearing about it and saying, well, I'm always going to get pints from now on.
I guess it makes sense, like the distribution of particulates.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you divide it up and everything like that, you want to make sure that there is an even amount.
Yeah, I thinking of ice cream is technically, I mean, it's a solid, but it's kind of like a semi-solid. So if you have too much, you could see some changing of layering. There we go, leveling,
Yeah.
layering. Maybe that's what they're talking. And I know Ben and Jerry's is big on putting they put a lot of stuff in their ice cream, a lot of chocolate chunks.
Dude, I love Ben and Jerry's. Oh my god, we always have multiple pints in our freezer.
They just brought back. Well, I heard they were bringing it back like 6 months ago, and I've been looking at the store every day. But Dublin Mudslide.
I haven't had that one.
They had it like in the early 2000s or maybe mid 2000s. I remember having it at college, and they got rid of it, and now they brought it back, and it's still my favorite, or at least one of my favorites.
Oh.
It's like
and your eyes just dilated again.
Yeah, they did. Oh yeah.
I got tiramisu.
Oh yeah.
With the chocolate layer in it, with the chocolate topping. I got that in the freezer right now. No, it was 2 nights ago. I killed off Americone Dream.
Oh yeah.
That one's really good. But my favorite is Netflix and Chilled.
I don't think I've had that one yet.
That's the one with it's a pretzel ice cream like base, and then it has like fudge pieces, cookie dough, and brownies. So it's sweet and salty because of the pretzel.
Oh yeah.
In it. Oh.
Just lather me up in
Eyes
it.
dilated. But anyways, I saw the gallon and I was like, whoa, Ben and Jerry's makes gallons, but I don't think they do.
You lied to me, Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Well, Penny is struggling internally and externally regarding her choices in men. Why does she keep picking losers? She's completely humiliated that Mike would write about their relationship for the whole world to see. And Leonard makes that comment, well, it's not that easy to find.
Yeah. And she's like, my mom found it, my sisters found it, my coworkers found it.
Yeah, and prisoners from the prisoners from Michigan State Penitentiary found it. And she found that through her email, so it made me wonder, like, are they emailing her? Did Mike actually give out her email?
That's
fucked up.
Kind of what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. Why would he, where would he even fit that into the conversation? So we did it in the subway, and here's her email.
Ask her about it, yeah. I mean, this is before, OnlyFans. Maybe he was giving it to the people paying a subscription fee.
Maybe.
$5 a month and you get an email.
Well, it got me wondering, what can Penny actually do legally in terms of something like this?
Oh.
So I just got a little curious. I watch a lot of law shows, so it's like,
Mm.
oh, what can we do? So I, so this is the next IQ points. Can you legally attack someone, or can you legally fight back if someone slanders you? So does this classify as slander? Can she legally go after Mike? Is kind of what I was kind of curious about.
Well, technically,
So
slander. I'm curious what you say, but off the top of my head, slander has to be a lie. Although, if it's private information, that's a separate angle. So I'm curious.
yeah, I found this on findlaw.com. So granted, this is going to be different from state to state since
Yeah.
every state has their own laws. So she actually probably can go after Mike legally for defamation.
Mm.
Since it's a blog and written, it's actually called, I think it's pronounced libel.
That's written. Yeah, libel.
Yeah, so slander is oral defamation. But the definition of defamation is any statement made by someone that hurts another person's reputation. It's not a crime to defame someone, but victims can sue in civil court for it. Defamation is proven by showing 5 elements. A statement was made about you. This statement was false. This statement was published. This statement harmed your reputation. And no privilege or defense exists for it. So it's like you said, a lot of what was in there was true, but at the same time, it does hurt her reputation.
And she would have to be able to prove that. Like, if she got fired from work because of that blog, that's definitely a case of defamation of character, right?
Yeah.
It's
So it's kind of a coin toss in this situation. She could go after it, and they could just settle because nobody wants a lawsuit.
yeah. And,
But at the same time, she probably won't win.
my first quarter semester at college, my undergrad, everybody had to take an introductory class to their field, and I was going into communication, so I had to take, it was like a stupid, like, 1 credit class. It was supposed to be an introduction to communication, but I get there and it's taught by this law professor who immediately goes to the board and writes the word libel and says, "We're about to learn some legal stuff." And meanwhile, my friend who's gone into programming goes in and is given like a radio, and they're like, "We're going to play hide and seek with the radios." And so all quarter he was playing these like capture the flag games, and I'm having to do hardcore law research. I'm like, I hate you so much, and this is 1 credit. Like, I don't even like. I was so angry, but I
I would
know.
be so pissed too.
And then I remember it does get into quite a bit of whether it's public knowledge or private knowledge. And since this was discussed or done within private standards, private settings, well, that's confusing because it was public settings, Subway.
It was,
But if
well,
she,
it was only making out in Subway.
it was only making out in the Subway. If she had told other people about this and he could vouch or prove that she's not closed minded to it, or that she has made it public on other occasions, he it's okay for him to do. So it gets there's all this especially if she's a public authority, that gets into it. I'm not a lawyer, but I had to do way too much research for that 1 credit class.
Well, before we get started, I just noticed in your background you have a Lego bag. What'd you get?
That was, I think that was the Home Alone mansion.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it built somewhere?
Nope, not yet. Not yet. It's
so it's still in the bag.
Once I took it out, I used the bag to move some stuff, but I have it, and it's going to be Christmas break, keeping me busy.
Nice. Take some photos. We'll post it.
Okay. I'm thinking about getting like the lighting set for it. Like, you can get third-party lighting sets, and so it will light up, and all the rooms will have lights and like little flashing and Christmas.
Oh, you should most definitely
Right?
get that.
It seems like, and if you're gonna do it, you're supposed to do it like as you're building it, or you have to demolish the whole thing and start over. So
Yeah. How else are you gonna get those lights in? It's otherwise you'd have to remodel.
He's gonna remodel this house. Watch out, Kevin.
All right. Well, Leonard is dumb and gets Penny to forgive Mike. That it was just Mike's way of telling the world how much he loves Penny. So then Leonard realized maybe he is her gay friend.
As he sits there alone to ponder his actions.
Yeah. Oh, stupid idiot. Well, back at the guy's apartment, they're playing a board game, which you're familiar with. It's called Talisman.
Yes.
Anything you like to share about Talisman?
Oh, yes. I think I have to. Yeah, there. The point is right as they start up the scene, because as they're playing this board game, they are also eating their dinner. And Sheldon is complaining about his tangerine chicken. And I get a point for being like somebody else, in this case, Howard, because Howard says, if you don't like it, don't get it.
But he thinks he likes it. He likes tangerine chicken. He's just not eating it.
This is, man, I don't know, maybe I come from a family of people who do this way too often, where my dad will go to the same restaurant and it's like, I don't like this place. I'm like, why do we keep going to it? And it's like, I don't know. And
wait, so you and your family keep going to the same restaurant your dad doesn't like?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. He's like, well, they had a coupon or something. And I'm like,
oh, well, that makes sense.
But you don't like it. If you don't like it, don't get it. And my mom does that too. It's she'll get something and she's like, oh, this isn't good for me, or this is gonna make me I'm going to get indigestion. And I'm like, why get it if it's going to give you indigestion? Just don't get it. So Howard's words spoke to me, to a core part of me. 1 point for Howard.
All right.
All right. Talisman time. So what we get here is what threw me off is apparently this is an edition of Talisman, and there are multiple editions, and I am used to the revised 4th edition. According to talismanisland.com, this is the regular 4th edition, which is going to be like 15 years old at this point. And we're talking about the first edition being like 30 to 40 years old, and different companies have bought the rights and remade the game and restructured the board, changed the rules up a little bit, but it's all basically the same thing. Different expansions, different characters. But one big difference between this one and the one I have is they have cardboard cutouts, stand-ups. And I noticed this time that the artwork looked familiar, but in the revised 4th edition, the one that they sell and that you can buy now, they have little plastic figurines, miniatures. And so I'm so used to those miniatures that I didn't pick up on that at first. But even though they have the cardboard cutouts, still the same game, just a few different rules. And Talisman Island actually made a point saying that they played in a couple more episodes, and that would be pretty cool if they had made an episode where they jump up to the revised 4th edition, because it was around that same time, I guess. But yeah, the 4th edition was apparently made by Black Industries, and the new one is, I believe, Flight Games, FFG. And yeah, I believe that there were some other changes, but basically the point of the game is you and some friends pick out figures or characters, and you go around the board, which is a square, and each space gives you a different adventure to go on. You fight a demon, you fight a deer, you meet a witch, you meet a fairy, and you try to level up. And as you level up, you get stronger and you're able to go to the center square where you level up even more. And then after that, if you're strong enough, you can go to the very, very middle where you go to the Crown of Command and you basically kill everybody else. And it can take hours. I think we played for 8 hours the last time we played, and we had like more than enough people. I think it said expect about an hour per player, and we probably had 7 or 8 players, probably more than we were supposed to, but we're having fun with it. And there is a square. I think what really solidified it was, I think was it Howard who said enslaved by warlocks.
Yep.
And there is a space where I remember you get enslaved, and like you get you also have the risk of like getting a new spell or new armor or something. I can't remember, but you can get enslaved. And I was enslaved once there, and meanwhile everybody's turns keep going by, and I just sat there. They got stronger, and I got stuck for a
Oh, that
long
sucks.
time. Yeah, eventually I made it out, but there are many expansions. Usually you put them up on the edge of the game board, and you're able to venture off the game board into like different areas, get more weapons, fight different creatures, and yeah. Other than that, I love the game. It's some people think it's kind of a light version of Dungeons and Dragons. Some people think it's too complicated. I would say that in order to play it, you have to be prepared to make up a few of your own rules, because the rule book doesn't like, there's too many possibilities of what can happen. And some things you might just disagree with, like that's too hard or that makes no sense. So it's kind of infamous for having house rules wherever you play it, where people just agree on their own rules a little bit. So that's my IQ point for Talisman, 4th edition revised.
Oh, great IQ points. You're rekindling my love of board games. I really miss playing, but being away from everyone, and Christina don't like board games, so it's
Ah,
kind of sad.
that's a Kelsey is not a fan of board games. Some of them. She is like a mastermind with Clue, like to the point where I won't play her anymore because it's terrifying. It's like somebody counting cards in poker, and I'm like, I can't win. Every time you want to play, let's just pretend you won and save an hour of our lives. and
Moving
meanwhile,
on to something else.
exactly. She doesn't like the kind of role playing games that I like, board games, zombie side, Talisman, because it takes more imagination and more struggle with understanding the rules.
Yeah, with those, like, I remember playing Zombicide with you, and I remember it took 2 sessions. One, it took like an entire night just to like explain the rules,
Yeah,
and then it transferred over to the next time we got together and played it, and then it was like the best game ever.
right. It's like one round is just a really boring tutorial, and then the next time it's like, oh, it's fun.
Yeah. All right, moving on. All right, they're arguing, and to change the subject, Raj suggests that they discuss Leonard's blunder with Penny. And Leonard just kind of shoves him aside, like, just roll the dice. And then he just dives into his problem, which I kind of love. It's like, it's on his mind. I don't want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it.
But it's all here. He was not rendered speechless.
Howard laughs, and he says the story gets funnier every time he hears it. Where Sheldon, I love this, he disagrees and was like, no, I liked it better the first 2 times. Now the Leonard character is just whiny and annoying.
I like that line because I didn't give a point being like Sheldon, but I can understand that. Like you feel for somebody and you empathize the first time they tell you a story, but as they keep complaining or they say something like 10 times, it's like the 10th time you're like, yeah, no, you're just kind of whiny this time.
Yeah, I stopped caring on the third time.
Exactly.
Well, then Penny whips in, yells at Leonard for the terrible advice, and Raj gives the best line of the episode. Wow, you managed to screw up the screw up.
That's why I have quoted here, screwed up the screw up.
Well, then Leonard follows Penny back. She apologizes because deep down she knows it's not his fault. She went over to Mike's place to get back together, but he moved on very quickly. Super quick. It was like, what, a couple hours?
Super quick. And I did a partial IQ point on this because, part of it is that I'm watching Pretty Little Liars. And Kelsey wants me to see it just because it was a big part of her growing up and a big show for her. And I have problems with it. And it's getting a little interesting, but there's like 2 seasons where I'm like, this is painful. But there's parts where it picks up here and there. But there's a girl, a character who is having a relationship with her teacher, and no spoiler alerts, it's like from episode 1, you know what's going on, and they're kind of on again, off again, and it seems like every time they're off, like the night of, she hooks up with a guy, and I'm like, whoa, that's like offensive to me. And in the same case here, Mike being having a girl's legs wrapped around his head, I'm like, what the, like, I don't know. I feel like maybe you don't have to have respect for your partner that you're breaking up with, but part of it, I feel like there's some amount of time, and also just personal emotions that trying to adjust and get back into understanding what it means to be who you are.
I feel I'm a little torn on that topic because I feel like the person that gets dumped needs to cope in any way that they need to. Granted, I don't want to give Mike credit because he seems like a total asshole. He deserved to get dumped. But at the same time, if you look at relationships in general, as the person that gets dumped, you should be able to cope in any way that you need to, whether it's picking up smoking again or grabbing a couple of drinks.
Black tar heroin.
Exactly.
Maybe anything safe. Probably not that, but hey, yeah.
I was just watching we watch Love is Blind.
Uh
I feel really dirty saying that because
huh.
it's just shitty reality TV show, but Christina and I love it. It's the third season, so we just plowed through it. We finished it just a couple nights ago. And of course, some of the marriages didn't work out, surprise surprise. And one of the topics at the end was that how quickly one of the guys was like caught, like the paparazzi was like caught like photos of him with another girl already and everything like that. Well, it's like, well, he did like, okay, spoilers for anyone who actually cares. Well, Love is Blind, but a guy got left at the altar at the wedding, like, so then he moved on. He's like, well, I'm gonna cope in my way.
That's fair. That's a good argument. That's a good argument.
Well, actually, no, shit, he was the dumpy. So he was the penny in the situation, and then he moved on. That's actually a little fucked up.
And I think that's what I'm used to is the people who dump often move on faster. And again, everybody should do what makes them happy. But
I guess by the time, if you're the dumper, by the time you actually dump someone, you've been over it for a while.
that's true. That's a good point. That and I think maybe the other part is that in a lot of situations, the person's actually cheating and they've been in a relationship with someone else. And I'm thinking that that's kind of offensive itself. But at the same time, it's exactly like you said, they are over the relationship and they've been over it for a while if they are cheating or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a partial research on what's the right amount of time before dating somebody new. And it's exactly like you said, there's no right amount of time. Everybody's different. But there is kind of a common notion of a 21-day rule, about 3 weeks. Although, as Oprah Daily says, that's not really a thing. Don't pay any mind to it. And I've also heard, although I could not find any substantial research on it, 90 days. And the notion of 90 days is a pretty consistent detox time for any sort of drug. And if we're being honest, love and romance is a drug, right? We have serotonin and dopamine in our brains being pumped out. And to kind of reboot ourselves, 90 days allows us to see things a little bit more clearly, freshly, and that we're not going to go out and make mistakes and rebounds.
So it says 90 days regardless of the duration of the relationship.
Um, again, it's everybody's different, and it says that some people will take more time, but as far as chemicals go, and again, I didn't find any super research on this, but some suggestions that 90 days, at least at the end of the 90 days, if the chemicals are out of your system at least a little bit. And so you're going to be thinking a little bit more clearly.
Okay. All right.
But again, it's all kind of a grain of salt. But I did find some interesting stuff that it gets into kind of with habits and stuff, that if you're able to keep a habit or break a habit for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you'll start to notice like your actions happening differently. And by the end of 90 days, part of, from what I've heard, I've never been addicted to smoking, but I've known several people addicted to cigarettes. So that part of it is the nicotine withdrawal, which apparently like 2 weeks and you're done with that. Some people will say differently, but from what I've heard, chemically that's it. But you get the habit of wanting the cigarette, or being like, oh, this is a time period where I'm supposed to be smoking a cigarette, or you get used to the hand motion of going to your mouth and back and forth. And it takes quite a few more weeks to get over that. And some say that either you never do, or like 90 days, you start to break those habits a little bit.
Geez, it's a long time.
3 months, yeah.
Well, anything else on that IQ point?
Nope. That's it. But I mean, everybody do what makes you happy, I guess. Don't hurt other people. Don't hurt yourself. And if it takes you longer than others, take your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go at your own pace.
Go at your
There
own
is no
pace.
right or wrong answer. Well, now, because of Mike, Penny is done with macho, good-looking guys with perfect hair, body, and money. So I guess she'll settle for Leonard. He asks her out, and she says yes. Sure, why not? What do I have to lose? That's the spirit.
That's I actually gave 1 point for being like Leonard. I like his enthusiasm there. That's the spirit. It's not really what you want to hear, but why not? Penny says,
yeah, so it sounds like you're catching up towards like other people. You just got like 2, right?
I Sheldon was kind of ahead. Sheldon was like 3 ahead, so
yeah. But it's catching up though.
It's catching up, but there's a little bit more show to watch for this episode. A little bit more, a few more points here and there.
Well, now we're in the lobby. Sheldon is listening on an iPod, perhaps the one that Raj sold him on eBay. That's what I was thinking. After watching this episode, I was like, man, lots of iPods in this episode.
I didn't even catch that, but I like that idea.
Because he was listening to an iPod. I was like, oh shit.
You mind if we take a break? I'm going to use the restroom, and you finished up your grasshopper. I want one.
Oh, I killed it. It's gone. I need to sober up now before I get tagged in to take care of Hunter.
Baby time. All right, I'll be right back.
All right, I'll pause it. And we're back. And Ryan has a grasshopper now.
It's beautiful. I wish you could all see it. Well, you know what? I'll take a picture.
Yep, take a picture. We are probably at the best interaction of season 1, in my opinion. We are in the lobby. Sheldon is listening to his iPod. And Sheldon is practicing his Mandarin. He's reciting, "Show me your citrus peels." And Penny pats him on the shoulder. He freaks out. She asks if he has a second. A second what? Pair of underwear? And then she wants to talk to him about Leonard because he's the only option. Raj can't speak unless he's drunk, and Howard is disgusting. And Sheldon, as his roommate, knows Leonard best. Or does he? Sheldon goes on to explain maybe he doesn't know Leonard as well as he thought. Apparently, Leonard owns a loofah, and he hides it, and he can handle small amounts of non-fat ice cream. And I love that he describes Leonard's farts that could be weaponized.
Weaponized. You know,
but then, oh, yeah.
I couldn't explain why. Well, you know, I'm sure he's probably hiding it so that Sheldon won't complain or mention it. But I did look up a little bit about loofahs and how they compare to other washing standards.
All right.
So, you know, I went to a couple, but this was from a blog, nancyrubin.com, which had some information on basically the 3 ways to wash yourself: washcloths, loofahs, and your hands. And I know in other parts of the world, some countries, some people wash with just their hands. I grew up with a washcloth. I didn't even know there was other possibilities till I was like in college. Loofahs as some sort of exfoliating device, and then but apparently there's pros and cons to each one. With your hands, they're actually the cleanest because, as you wash your hands, they get clean, your skin gets clean. And the bad part is they do not exfoliate very well. So if you're looking for exfoliation, that's not going to do it. However, if you have really sensitive skin or gentle skin, that's going to be the most gentle and the best way to wash yourself. With washcloths, you get some exfoliation, yet as it sits in the shower, it can harbor, mold and bacteria, and that can be kind of unhygienic or even dangerous, I suppose, to some degree, get you sick. And apparently loofahs exfoliate the most, but can harbor the most. And again, it's kind of hard to wash a loofah. I was seeing some sites that said there are ways to do it depending on the loofah. But at the same time, you want to be careful because loofahs can, they just sit there and harbor bacteria.
So how did you look into how you actually wash it?
I was seeing one that was the washing machine. I think one said the dishwasher. But it really depends on the loofah you're using and who you talk to.
Good to know.
Right?
I should probably wash mine.
Yeah. I've been going to, I'm trying out some bar soaps. I'm not going to throw any names out there because I want to try them all. And if they want to sponsor us, I'll mention them.
Yes.
I'm trying out some bar soaps and been using my hands and just the bar of soap with the, usually there's some pieces of something mixed into it for exfoliation purposes. And, I've been enjoying that. I have sensitive skin, so that's absolutely fine. But other than that, I did have a loofah, and now I'm terrified of it. I'm like, what do you have inside you, loofah?
The first thing that I'm thinking of is like to clean it is to almost like boil it. Because like a sanitization step. Because like that's what we have to do with our baby's bottles. Like we have to clean it with soap, like hot soapy water, and then we boil it.
That's with like brewing, right? Boiling is the best way to clean and sanitize your equipment because technically with chemicals you run the risk of not cleaning it appropriately, missing something, or having like just a smidge of bacteria contaminate something, which is with the bottles too, right?
Yeah.
If they're not boiled, it just can linger there. So yeah, that was my cleaning point. And if you ever wanted to know, I've been using my hands to clean myself.
Me too.
Yeah. He's been using his
Ryan's
hands to clean himself. I'm using his hands.
Well, Penny invites Sheldon over to her place to continue the conversation. And I love Sheldon's response. We're not done. Sheldon knew that Leonard successfully asked out Penny since when he got back to the apartment, he was doing a dance similar to the Happy Hippos of Fantasia. And now that he is at Penny's apartment, he needs to find a new spot. I love that Penny gives him a sensible solution to just sit anywhere at random, and if he doesn't like it, he'll find a new spot next time. He says that that's crazy, and he will figure it out. So he starts wandering around the apartments. So, like I said, I liked this conversation the best out of season 1. I think it's my favorite part. Just kind of like we said, it moves the story forward because it's about the relationship between Penny and Leonard. It's the fish out of water kind of story thing. It's for her talking to him about just intellectual things, and him being out of water, just out of his element in her apartment.
A new space.
So it kind of just combined everything that I like out of watching characters.
I
So
love watching him squirm in this scene. Not because I hate him as a character, but because it's funny. He has no idea.
I want
Like,
to
where are you
watch
going to
you
sit?
squirm,
Squirm. Dance for me,
and my
Sheldon.
and my eyes will dilate while you do it. Well, Penny admits that she's always known that Leonard's had a crush on her, and Sheldon just responds, "A little crush is as much of a crush as Menelaus has on Helen of Troy." So a little breakdown of Helen of Troy,
I was going to say I did
just
a
because.
partial IQ because I didn't actually know who Menelaus was. So
Yeah, I totally thought that Menelaus was the one that because I knew that Helen was like taken away, and that's what like the war was like about and everything like that. But I thought it was Menelaus that kind of stole her away, but it wasn't. It was Paris.
and I
So
honestly
Menelaus is
get her confused with who's the she's from a pharaoh.
Cleopatra.
Yeah, Cleopatra. Was she a pharaoh? Man, my history is horrible.
She was the wife of the pharaoh,
Wife of
of a
pharaoh.
pharaoh.
All right, I got her confused with Helen of Troy. So I mean I've known that they're different people, but I kind of interchanged them as.
Well, they were both in their rights known for being the most beautiful woman in like the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's what like they're both known for.
Face to
So
launch 1,000 ships is apparently Helen, but I was thinking that was
Helen, yeah.
Cleopatra. Yeah, so beautiful girls, I
Well,
guess.
Cleopatra launched 1,001 ships.
1,001. One better than you. What you gonna do?
Take that, Helen.
You're so basic, Helen.
Well, Helen of Troy was a character from Greek mythology, the daughter of Zeus and Leda, the Spartan queen. Leda was admired by Zeus and came to her in the form of a swan, being pursued by an eagle, and they consummated. Greek mythology is weird, everyone. It's super weird. Lots of like bestiality.
You know that happens. Most of our religions today have gotten rid of the bestiality, but I mean, you go into what is it like Nordic mythology where Loki turns into a female horse and then gives birth. Uh, so yeah, things
Mythology
get
is crazy.
it's a fun time.
Well, they consummated the same night that she laid with her husband Tindarius. Wait, Tindarius. And that resulted in the laying of two eggs. And when they hatched, it gave birth to two sets of twins. In the first egg, it was Helen and her sister Clytemnestra. And the second egg had twin brothers, Pollux and Castor. Which reminds me of Face Off. I don't know if you ever. The two
Yes.
brothers in that was Castor and Pollux.
Oh. You know, I just watched was it the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or whatever, where
What's that?
Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage, and the guy who played in Game of Thrones he almost killed the Mountain, but ended up dying right at the end.
Oh, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, he is like this
The Viper.
multi-billionaire and has Nicolas Cage come out just because he's excited to see Nick Cage, and Nick Cage finds out that he's might be a like international drug dealer or arms dealer, and at the same time he has all these goods from Nick Cage movies, including Face Off. He has like the golden guns. He's like, "Where'd you get those guns?" But it's a superb movie. I'm not a big fan of everything Nick Cage has been doing recently, but that one's worth watching. It made me laugh. So yeah,
I'll
that
have to
makes
check it
sense.
out.
Face Off, their names where
Yeah.
they came from. Huh.
Yep. Watch Face Off, everyone.
Watch it.
Like late 90s amazement.
So it was John Woo, right? Directed by.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
get Some of those pigeons flying through it and just classic
Yep,
action
slow
scenes.
motion walking.
Yeah, love it.
So good. Well, back to Helen of Troy. Like what we were saying, she was known as being the most beautiful woman in the Age of Heroes and the wife of Menelaus, the king of Sparta. Helen ran away with Paris, the Prince of Troy, which caused a 10-year war between the armies of Greece and Troy to win her back. So that's quite the crush that Menelaus had on his own wife. I wouldn't even say it's a crush. That's like so in love that he waged a 10-year war.
Some would say that's an unhealthy infatuation.
Yeah.
Especially the people who died in that war.
Ugh, I know.
Although I do like in all the sites that I saw that it goes back and forth on, was Helen kidnapped or did she run away? And some of them, like, it says kidnapped, and then in parentheses it's like eloped, and then some of them like ran away with, and then said maybe kidnapped. Like, nobody knows.
Well, just know that this is Greek mythology. It actually isn't real.
Oh.
So, wah, wah.
Are you sure?
What a terrible IQ point.
Next you're going to tell me the Tooth Fairy and Santa aren't real. Jeez.
Well, Helen is supposed to be a daughter of Zeus, so...
Well, who isn't? That's my dad.
Speaking of which, if you like Greek mythology, I think it's HBO is creating a series of Percy Jackson. Did you ever read those books?
I saw the movie that came out, but I never read the books.
The movie wasn't very good. The movies aren't very good. The books are super good. It's like, granted, they're made for like middle schoolers, but they're fucking awesome.
I've heard good things.
If you like Greek mythology, then you'll like this because it does do it's accurate stories on Greek mythology, but it's set in modern times to a fictional story of a kid that learns that he is the son of Poseidon.
I had students do papers on that before, and like I had seen parts of the movie but never read the books, and they all speak very, very highly of it. So
I will say I did the audiobooks. They were very well done, and they're very easy to listen to in the car because, like, when you're driving, you don't want to listen to anything too complicated because you're paying attention to the road. So this dances that perfect line of really easy to understand and very fun to keep you engaged.
Yeah, I've tried listening to like theoretical physics, this Elegant Universe, Brian Greene stuff in the car, and it's just a waste of time. I have no idea.
I was like that with Game of Thrones. Like, yeah. I tried doing the audiobooks, and I just could not follow it. So that's why I just picked up the actual books.
It's like, well, we finished the book, and I can't name one character.
Yeah.
How about that?
It's so funny because, like, when they're in the audiobook, they kept saying Khal Drogo, but, like, the author or the narrator was saying it with, like, a little bit of an accent, and I totally thought his name was Carl. Carl Drogo.
Carl.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily recommend the Game of Thrones audiobook. But Percy Jackson, yes. All right, continuing on. Sheldon is back to the actual Big Bang Theory.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, Sheldon continues to search for his spot, asking if she's open to rotating the couch 30 degrees. And I love her deadpan response and just ignoring his crazy behavior. She's just like, no, and then just moves on.
No.
So then Sheldon goes on to tell her that her choice in men has benefited Raj greatly because he has a new iPod. So it turns out that iPod he didn't sell it to
nice
Sheldon.
Catch.
It clicked in. So I was like, okay. He had his own iPod. And then I noticed in the background that Penny was sporting a red iPod in the background.
Whoa.
Yeah, lots of product placement in this.
Good for them. I wish we could get some of that. I'd take an iPod.
I know. You know what? Any advertisers out there, our ratings are pretty good right now.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good if I say so myself. At least my mom and Rob's mom said so.
Well, my mom actually doesn't like it. It was actually the one 4-star.
My
No, I'm just
mom
kidding.
can't figure out how to use podcasts. They say, you open up podcasts and download it. And where is that? Never mind.
All right, well, Penny tries to talk in a way that Sheldon would understand and fails miserably. She says that Leonard is looking for a long-term relationship that would last light years. And then Sheldon just kind of freaks out. No one would ever say that. Light years is a unit of distance, not time.
We get 1 point for me being like Sheldon. When she said it, I cringed.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not how you use light years.
That's not it. And then he admits that people always make that mistake because of the name, and that goes the same for foot-pound, which is a unit of work and not weight. And I looked into foot-pound because I've never heard of that.
I've never heard it either. I didn't do much looking, but I looked up what it was.
That's pretty much all I did, too.
Yeah.
A foot-pound is the measure of a pound of force applied over 1 foot. And this can be used to specify the muzzle energy of a bullet in small arms ballistics, and not to be confused with pound-foot, which is a measure of torque.
Oh.
So there's foot-pound and there's pound-foot.
And torque's when it goes around in a circle, right?
Yeah, it's the energy that it takes to revolve in a circle.
See, I was just picturing...
Whereas foot-pound, it sounds like it's more of a linear thing. It's the energy applied of force going towards a foot. So it's like, that's kind of like the difference.
I was taking it as a little guy with like a rope, and he's pulling like a box up, and the amount of force it takes to pull it up a foot.
Maybe. Yeah, I was trying to look up examples of this, and the only example that I found was about firearms. Like the pound, like how much force it took that bullet to go a foot.
That makes more sense. My brain just resorted to cartoons, and I was thinking like Coyote trying to kill the Roadrunner with a box. How much force does he have to use to lift the box?
Yeah. Anything else on foot-pound?
No, that's all.
Okay, we've had enough foot-pound. Moving on. Because now we get into the crux of it all. We get into Schrodinger's cat.
Oh, yeah.
So Sheldon, in an attempt to explain the situation to Penny, mentions Schrodinger's cat, which will become an ongoing theme throughout the entire series.
I was going to say, we've talked a little bit about it, right?
Yeah, you brought it up before without even knowing that it pops up in the series.
It was going to be like a main pivotal example or comparison.
Well, in 1935, Erwin Schrödinger, in an attempt to explain the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics, he proposed an experiment where a cat is placed in a box with a sealed vial of poison that will break open at a random time. Now, since no one knows when or if the poison has been released, until the box is opened, the cat can be thought of as both alive and dead. Penny doesn't understand the point. And Sheldon says, well, of course not. I didn't tell you yet. He goes on to explain that the relationship is seen as good and bad. They won't know until they actually go on the date. Penny still doesn't get it, so then Sheldon just starts all over again. And if I'm giving myself Sheldon points, I have a Sheldon point right there, where every time I tell a story or go through an explanation, if someone interrupts me, I have to start all over. It's like there's a certain flow that needs to happen.
I didn't understand it. Let me start from the beginning.
Yeah, let's start over. It's like, no, don't start over. All right, well, a little bit more of a deep dive into Schrodinger's cat. So I found this on wtamu.edu. It's in .edu, so it must be true.
Of course.
Well, first off, this was not a real experiment. So no cats were actually harmed. So let the record show no cats harmed. We
No
love cats.
felines were poisoned in this experiment because it wasn't.
Nope. Because this was just a teaching tool used to explain why people were misinterpreting quantum theory. The purpose was to explain that simple misinterpretations of quantum theory can lead to absurd results, which do not match the real world. He came up with this while quantum theory was being developed in the 30s. Some scientists were drifting from science to philosophy, and their theories were becoming more and more absurd. So, how this is related to the Copenhagen interpretation? So, the Copenhagen interpretation. In quantum theory, quantum particles can exist in a superposition of states at the same time and collapse down to a single state upon interaction with other particles. Basically, the Copenhagen interpretation is used to explain what is happening in subatomic particles without looking at it. Without observing, math can show that a particle is there, but not there at the same time. The only way to know 100% where it is to observe it. Schrödinger thought that this line of thinking was absurd. Thus, he created the thought experiment of Schrödinger's cat and related it to a cat being in a box with poison is both alive and dead at the same time. So, in summation, Schrödinger's cat is used to explain scientific theory that no one is right or wrong until said theory can be tested or proven.
And I always think about this. I could be wrong. Somebody can jump in and email us. But with atoms, electrons going around the nucleus, that they behave in this way that there's really no way of knowing where they're going to be in the electron field. I grew up learning it was an orbit, but it's apparently a field. And you can't assume or even think that it's going to be in one position, that you have to assume it's everywhere at once, even though it's one electron. Because it could be anywhere, so assume it's everywhere. It's both alive and dead at the same time.
Yep, that's Schrödinger's cat for you.
It's a fun thought experiment.
Yeah. All right, so we jump back to Caltech. Sheldon and Leonard are having lunch and discuss Penny. They find a table and see two Asians at a table with two open seats. And Sheldon speaks poor Mandarin, saying, "Love, live, concrete."
You know, I don't know Mandarin, but I remember talking about how they kind of misuse Spanish. And I kind of wonder if these words are close at all. That with Spanish, they were using something that sounded completely different, right? It was either her on the game show, either the woman's butcher or her son. And those two words were completely different. And so I kind of wonder if they're doing that, and I kind of get irritated.
Yeah, I couldn't. It was really hard to figure out what he was saying and look, because we have to translate it phonetically, whereas Mandarin is in characters. So it's kind of like, well, how am I going to figure this out? I tried looking it up, like Google searching it, but there wasn't any information on it.
And he wasn't using the hand gestures.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about those jokes. I do, like I said, I do commend Sheldon for learning another language and trying. Granted, it's for spiteful purposes, but at the same time, if you see an Asian, don't feel like you need to speak Chinese to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say about that.
Besides the orange peels, I don't really know why he's bothering with anybody else, because I feel like that was his one goal, right?
Yeah, but again, the owner of the restaurant speaks English.
Yeah, he does.
Know this from another episode. But anyways, Leonard is panicking because he thinks that he made a mistake asking her out, and Sheldon agrees, thinking that he's talking about his food, that he made a carbohydrate redundancy, which I disagree with, because stuffing and mashers go perfectly together. There's nothing redundant about it.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon shows that he's not interested in talking about Penny, but Leonard just talks anyways, and that's kind of like the central theme of Sheldon, is that Everyone disregards his feelings and they just use him as a listening device. And Leonard says that he's not excited to go out with her anymore, that he just feels nauseous. And Sheldon then says that his food choice is actually appropriate since starch absorbs fluid, which reduces the amount of vomit available for violent expulsion. I
We
looked
get.
that up.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
I worked with the terminology. I give a point towards Sheldon because, much like the light years, his use of nauseous was incorrect, and I even stopped and said that was wrong. He points out Leonard is feeling nauseated, and this gets confusing, but nauseated means to feel ill. Nauseous means to be something that makes others feel ill. So the color on your shirt is nauseous. It makes me want to puke. The nauseous gas make me feel sick. But if I'm feeling sick, I'm supposed to say I'm nauseated. The ride made me feel nauseated because if I say I'm nauseous, that means anybody who looks at me wants to puke because my face is that ugly. So I've this is one
Applause to the English professor.
been burned into my memory, and I'm happy that Sheldon pointed it out because I don't know, it confused me. I'm like, why would I want to throw up looking at you? Oh, you feel sick? Okay. Again, taking things literally. That you say it, and I know that it's an error that people use it all the time, but in my brain, it's like, yeah, you look like I'm what, and then I stop and have to rephrase it. Yeah. Okay, so
Good
your
to
turn.
know. Oh, well, I'm going into, well, if starch actually does absorb fluid, which can reduce the amount of vomit available for violent expulsion. Based off the research, I don't think that's true.
Huh.
I think regardless, it just means if you have something starchy, it does technically absorb the liquid, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be less violent expulsion.
It's still going to come up kind of lumpy.
It's going to come out regardless. It just means it's going to be a little chunkier.
And that's what people say that with alcohol, right? That if you've been drinking, eat some bread or eat some potatoes, it'll soak it up.
Which is actually, it's a myth.
It's a myth, yeah.
It's alcohol will get into your bloodstream regardless.
It's there no matter what you eat. Now, it might settle your stomach and it might taste good. Who's going to turn on some mashed potatoes? But it's not going to get rid of the alcohol. Yeah, I'm not.
Spoonful of gravy, too?
Oh, yeah. You ever see that Man show where there's a Comedy Central show with...
I watched the Man Show.
You know what I'm talking about? Where they...
Yeah, with Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel. It's how they got their start.
Yeah, there was an episode... Well, first of all, there was a guy who chugged a beer like at every episode. That was like the
Fox.
thing.
Yep.
And then there was an episode where they're like, we just want gravy. And they got pitchers full of gravy and they were drinking gravy straight. And,
oh my God.
Just kind of remember, like, it sounded good, but by the end of the episode, you could see on their face it was a mistake.
Well, I mean, depending on if you really think about gravy, it's really just thickened stock, which is actually just like a soup. If you like really think about it.
A thick soup.
Well, I did a little bit more research on other foods or other ways to rid yourself of nausea.
Yeah.
Or to not become nauseated.
To prevent nauseation?
Did I use that right?
I think so.
To prevent nauseation. Well, I found this on Medical News Today. So, if you ever start the feeling of nauseation, ginger helps, or broth, because it's a good source of nutrients and it's easy to digest. You could do the brat diet, BRAT, which is banana, rice, applesauce, or toast. They're all bland foods that are easy to digest. Or dry foods, items with little or no odor, So like saltines, pretzels, oat cakes, or rice cakes. And cold foods apparently is supposed to help because cold foods give off less odor than hot foods.
Mm.
So think like a sandwich with protein or something, or peanut butter or egg salad, crackers with a small amount of cheese, yogurt, or a popsicle. Something that's not going to give out off a strong odor to create more nausea.
You don't want to microwave your peanut butter before consuming it.
Well, I might. I'll still do it.
Screw it if I throw up. I want my hot peanut butter.
Journey down is going to be amazing. And last thing is protein-rich foods. So back to peanut butter or fish, turkey. They put boiled eggs on there. I feel like that would make me even more nauseated. Like, how do boiled eggs sounds like the most potent smell? I don't know why that's on the list. Or plain yogurt or baked tofu, not fried. So in a sense, if Leonard is feeling nauseated, mashed potatoes and stuffing could be helpful because they could, by itself, are a little on the bland side. If he has it just room temperature enough or cold, it won't have an odor. Or at least less of an odor.
Because I feel like after so much potato salad, I'm feeling pretty nauseated myself. So,
or mashers.
Cold masher.
Yeah, I guess if you have cold mashed potatoes, it's the equivalent of mushy potato salad.
This is just sad. I was going to mention that I have a friend who recommended something. I haven't tried it, but I'm really curious. She recommends that if you are feeling seasick, if you're on a boat and start to become nauseated, to open up a like a hand wipe with ethyl alcohol and sniff it, and something about that scent will like reboot your system or equal it out. I don't know. It's like such a poignant smell that it settles your senses, and she says it works pretty well. So I wonder if that would work even if you were on land.
How about regular alcohol smell?
Oh yeah, the grasshopper. smelling kind of chocolatey.
A little minty.
Maybe I should heat it up.
All right. Well, Sheldon wants Leonard to get to the point, and he just directly asks, "What do you need from me to move this along?" Which is very respectable. You know what? If we could all just be that direct, things would get done a little faster.
Yeah.
Sheldon responds, Schrodinger's cat. Boom.
Brilliant.
Light bulb moment. Absolute brilliant. So now we fast forward to the night of the big dates.
It's the dates.
The dates.
The dates.
Penny but before they get started, Penny and Leonard have a nice little sit down just to discuss everything, to kind of set the parameters, set expectations. He asks her if she's heard of Schrodinger's cat, and she says that she's heard way too much about it. So then, being the man that he is, he grabs her and he embraces her. And the cat's alive!
The cat's alive. You know, I partially feel weird about this because it's like he didn't really get consent about that, but at the same time, she was, I think subtext context suggested that she was interested and wanted to rip the Band-Aid off too. And I think I mentioned earlier that I respect him for ripping the Band-Aid off and seeing him progress through the season to a person who's like, I'm going to just do it. And if it is, it is. If it isn't, then I will live with the consequences.
It does remind me about an earlier episode when he tries to pursue Leslie, where when he asks her out, she even just says, let's get to brass tacks. Let's just kiss and see if there's any sparks.
Let's just do it.
Yeah, let's just...
And there's nothing. Really nothing?
Well, the cat's alive, and they go on the dates. They show up at the Chinese restaurant, and Sheldon is there yelling at that poor owner.
Who speaks English.
That has to... Yeah. It's like... And Sheldon is just screaming, show me your mucus. Show me your mucus. And it's the return of James Hong. who we last saw on the episode The Dumpling Paradox.
Yeah. And he
And
threatens
then
to
Penny and
call the
Sheldon just
police.
bounces. Yeah. Yeah, call the police. Definitely call the police on Sheldon. And that's it. That's the end of season one.
Bravo.
Check that off.
Check it off.
All right. So what we won't go into our overall impressions of the season. We'll save that for the next episode. But what were your overall thoughts on this episode? How'd you like it as a season finale?
This is everything I hoped for in a season finale. This is it's wrapping up where I wanted it to. It's covered some stuff. Oh no. I just tallied my points and I'm at 20 like other people and 24 like Sheldon. So
20. Whoa. All right, Shelly.
All right, Shelly. You can call me Shelly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this episode. It wrapped up just like I wanted it to and leaves the next season open for a lot to be discussed. Has the characterization I like. Leonard is growing. Penny is too. And Sheldon is, still Sheldon, but, I look forward to seeing where he's going to go.
He's going to become more Sheldon.
More Sheldon.
And I feel like you understand what that means.
Oh, no. I have 24 points that say I understand.
All right. Well, that was season one. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. As a reminder, next episode, we're going to do the season one recap. A few of the topics that we're going to discuss. We will be discussing best episode, worst episode, any runner-ups or noteworthy mentions, best guest actor, best celebrity cameo, best moment, worst moment, best IQ point, best half IQ point, overall IQ point count, and favorite character arc.
Oh, yeah.
I just said a lot of stuff, so I'll send you that list.
Good,
things to think about. We got a lot of things to think about.
So much to think about.
Your notebook is just full of tallies.
Oh my goodness.
There are no notes in there. There's just tally marks.
It's just tally. Not even real tallies. I was just doing X's and checks. I have a picture of Howard in here, though. Whoa.
Well, Ryan, maybe the next episode, maybe give us some guesses of where you think the storyline is going to go, and maybe think of all the characters and what since you've never seen this series, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Except for that,
for the most part,
one spoiler where I saw Sheldon kissing somebody in the commercial.
Yeah,
because I watched the 18th inning of a baseball game.
Oh, fucking baseball ruined another life.
Seriously.
God.
When will they learn?
Well, anything else?
That's all I have for today.
Well, thanks again for joining us. Remember to please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Shoot us an email. Send us your superlative. Send us your favorite moments.
Love to hear from you.
Email us. Yeah, we'd love to hear from everybody. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time when we talk about season one recap and the Lost Pilot.
Woohoo.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD necessary. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening. And the cat's alive!
The cat's